Hi guys, so we are starting our hand and foot connection focus flow this evening, and so you won't need any extra equipment today, so come and lie on your backs. Just get my water bottle. Right. So we want our feet to be hip distance apart. And we're going to think about our connection, so we want to be feeling it underneath both our feet, underneath the lumbosacral junction, TL junction, both shoulder blades and the back of the head. So let's start at the feet, and we're just going to try and get that full foot connection. So we're just going to start by just shifting the weight from side to side until you feel like you've got equal balance between the right and left foot. Then when you feel like you've got that balance, think about where you're feeling the connection. So are you feeling it on the outside of the foot or the inside? So if you're feeling it on the outside of the foot, we're going to aim to bring that inner arch down into connection with the floor by pushing the big toe down into the floor, keeping the knees pointing towards the ceiling so that the ankles stay neutral. If you're feeling it more on the inside, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to try and get the outer arch down towards the floor, but keeping that big toe connection into the floor, keeping the knees pointing towards the ceiling. Okay, now try and keep that connection now throughout this part of the flow. Okay, so we're going to start now by tilting the pelvis into an anterior tilt, and then reverse peel, so we're taking the pelvis into a posterior position, the spine's going to cave into the floor, and then we're just going to anteriorly tilt the pelvis, posterior, so just go between the anterior tilt, posterior tilt, lumbar extension, lumbar flexion, keeping your big toes pressing down into the floor. You need to have a little rest from that because your arch is starting to cramp. Have a little rest, but then try and get that connection as soon as you've had a little rest. So now I want you to pause in the midpoint between the two end ranges. So lower back wants to be flat on the floor. There doesn't want to be any gap between your back and the floor, but you don't want to be caved into the floor either. So your pelvis should be neutral, lower back should be neutral, and you should be feeling more connected underneath your lumbosacral junction. And then you're going to work up to your TL junction. So think of your ribs and pelvis like the pages of a book. So we want the pages to be closed. What we don't want is for your pages or your ribs and pelvis to be open. So with the open book appearance, you get rib flaring and lumbar extension. So have a feel of your ribs. Just see if they feel like they're poking up. We want to try and pull the rib cage down towards the pelvis like we're closing the pages of the book. Okay, so once we've got that connection, move up the shoulder blades. They want to be equal from side to side. So have a little shuffle until you feel like you've got more balance between the right and left side. And then the shoulders themselves, they want to be in a neutral position. So we don't want to be lifted and forward. So we're going to try and activate underneath the shoulder girdle by bringing the shoulder blades down towards the back pockets, trying to externally rotate the shoulders. Okay, and then move up to the head. So the head wants to push straight down towards the floor. What we don't want is for your neck to extend or to tip forwards. So your eyes are going to look straight up towards the ceiling, and your head's going to push straight down towards the floor. You should feel those muscles at the front of the neck come alive. Okay, so Once we've got that connection, put one hand on the chest, one hand on the tummy. And we're just going to focus on getting the breath in the right order first of all. So, hand on the tummy wants to lift on the breath in and lower on the breath out. And keep focusing it on your foot connection. So, we want that tripod of the foot. So, big toe is going to be pressing down into the floor, but keeping that outer edge on the floor. So, breathing in and out. Hand on the tummy, lifting on the breath in and lowering on the breath out. Really trying to focus on the hand and the chest, not moving anywhere. So this is all coming from the abdomen. Keep those big toes pressing into the floor, knees pointing up towards the ceiling. Okay, so once we've got the breath in the right order, put your hands around your waist and we're going to now create our 360-degree breath. So, as you're breathing in, you want to feel all the muscles around the abdominal wall expand into your hands outwards. 360 degrees, so equal from front to back and from side to side. So, if you're struggling with that, just cough, feel the muscles expand, and then use that to let your brain know where the muscles are. And now, as you breathe in, try and focus on all those muscles, lifting and expanding your hands away. With that breath in, and then relaxing on the breath out. Like I say, it wants to be equal from front to back and from side to side. So if there's anywhere that you're struggling to feel that inflation, just focus on that area. Give it a prod, give it a poke, cough again if you need to, and just really try and hone in on those muscles and just visualize those muscles lifting and expanding. Another way to think of it is imagine you've got a balloon inside your abdomen, and with each breath that you take, you're pumping the balloon up a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger. So you're trying to inflate those muscles all the way around 360 degrees. Keep pushing your big toes down into the floor, knees up towards the ceiling, ankles neutral. Okay, so once we've got the 360 degree breath, we're going to work on the brace. So the brace is that outward push, it's not clenched, it's not tense, and you're not sucking your belly button in. So you're going to create your 360 degree breath. Now before you take your breath out, you're going to create an outward push like you're imagining that you're about to fart, and then try not to let the muscles completely relax on the breath out. So keep that activation of the abdominal wall now throughout that breath in and out. Keep pushing the big toes into the floor. Keep that nice connection underneath both feet equally. Okay, so we're going to now do some glute bridges, but thinking about, so obviously we're creating our 360-degree breath and our brace, thinking about that foot connection, so keeping those big toes pressed into the floor and trying to keep the outer edge on the floor and that balance between the right and left foot. So you're going to start to tilt the pelvis backwards, and then you're going to start to peel the spine away from the floor, pushing down into the floor with both feet, big toes pressing down, bringing the hips up parallel with the legs, and then slowly reverse that. So reverse peeling the spine down towards the floor, back into your neutral pelvis. So don't let your pelvis go into that anterior tilt. And then you're going to tilt the pelvis backwards again and peel the spine off the floor. Keep that foot connection, big toes pressing down into the floor, trying to activate that medial arch, knees pointing towards the ceiling. Imagine you've got some champagne glasses on the top of your knees, and we're trying to keep those champagne glasses pointed up towards the ceiling. You don't want them to topple off. Okay, so go again. So you're tilting the pelvis backwards, lifting the bum off the floor, and then slowly down, back to your neutral pelvis. And lift. And slowly down. So think about your weight distribution. Think about whether you feel like you're drifting more onto one side than the other. And then just try and correct that if you feel like you are shifting. Just do 2 more of these. Keep those big toes pressing into the floor. And then we're just going to lift again. And now you're going to just take one leg up. So we're going to have to create our breath and our brace and really stabilise through that supporting foot by pushing the foot down into the floor, and you're going to extend one leg out. And then keep up in that position, and you're going to swap sides. So keep alternating sides, keep the pelvis up. You're creating that brace, and you're connecting with that supporting foot to the floor. Equally on the inside and the outside of the foot. Just do a couple more. And then lower your pelvis back down. And then we're just going to do some single leg lifts. And as we lower the foot down, just trying to be a little bit body aware of what the foot is doing. So we're going to try and tap the foot front to back at the same time and equal from side to side. And it's way harder than it sounds. So do the opposite side, and then slowly guide it down, and just think about the foot position and whether you're going to touch that foot all at the same time. So alternating sides. Think about the ankle being in a neutral position. If the ankle's in a neutral position, you'll feel like that weight connects equally from side to side of the foot. I know that I'm a little bit pointed with my foot because my the front of my foot keeps touching, so just try and make little corrections. Now I'm a bit too posterior, so just trying to become aware of what like our bodies are doing. Got one equal that time. And then start to lift both legs up into the air, so you create your brace and your breath, and then slowly down. And now we're going to try and get both our feet to connect equally at the same time. And we're making sure that as we lift the legs, pelvis is staying neutral. Do a couple more. Oh, we got a good one that time. And then you're going to lift your legs up into the air, into your 3-month supine. So you want ankles over your knees, or feet over your knees, should I say. Ankles neutral, knees over your hips. Hips in external rotation and abduction. So your knees are going to be wider than your hips, but your feet are going to be narrower than your knees. Just hold that position for a few seconds, creating a nice smooth cylinder around your abdominal wall. Put your hands up to the ceiling, and then we're just going to lift the head slightly and then start to roll in the direction that you're wanting to travel, and then roll back and then go to the opposite side. And we want our nice Lego body, so shoulders and pelvis are moving at the same time. And we're controlling that movement so we don't just land really heavily on our sides. And when we lie on our side, make sure we've got our straight spine so you're not bananaed. And then with this next one, we're going to roll onto our side, up into a lower oblique sit, into a high oblique sit, and then bring the leg round into our tripod. And then bring the leg round back, go into our high oblique sit, low oblique sit, onto the back, onto the opposite side, and then do the same. So you might need to give yourself a bit of space. And then throughout, you're going to like do that little sequence from side to side, and we're really focusing each time what our hand is doing. So make sure you get that full hand connection throughout, and then when you go into your tripod, think about your foot as well at the same time. So we're rolling up onto our side, hand fully connected, round into the tripod, full foot connection, full hand connection. And then slowly lower back, down, up, so just going side to side. Each time you come into your tripod, make sure that we're nice and flat through the spine, so we're not rounding. So fingers spread wide with your hand, and we want to make sure that we don't just have an arch, so we want that full hand connection, that's like a flat hand. No clawing fingers. And then just do one more each side. And then come up into your tripod. Make sure we're nice and flat, so hands are flat on the floor. Spine's nice and long. And then you're just going to rotate one hand up towards the ceiling. Lift that back knee off the floor. And then this is a little bit different, so we're just going to stand into that kind of split squat position and up. Straighten the legs, and then come back down into your high kneel, into your tripod, and then up. So you need a little bit of balance with this as well. Straight leg, and then back down into your tripod with arm rotation. So when we come into our tripod, keep that hand pointed up towards the ceiling. So as well, because we're coming up into the standing position and lowering back down, make sure you're thinking about kind of what your pelvis is doing as well. So when we're at the top, we're focusing on that hips forwards, not too narrow with the legs, so we're giving the hip enough space. Just do another couple on this side. Come back down into your tripod, and then take the other hand up towards the ceiling. And we're going to rotate round down to the opposite side, keeping the arm up towards the ceiling. And then rotate back. And then rotate round. So we're just going side to side, making sure that our hand and foot fully connect. with the floor. And keep your balance, don't fall over. Just do one more side to side. And then bring your hands down into my both hand tripod. And then we're going to do the same on the opposite side. So take the arm up towards the ceiling, so you're rotating into it. Lift the back leg, so the knee off the floor. Full connection with that hand and the foot. And then we're just going to stand and then slowly come back down. Stand, come back down. Make sure that knee's tracking the second and third toe. Not too narrow with the feet. So we're giving hip enough space. Ooh. Just do a couple more. Okay, come into your high kneel, and we want pelvis level with the floor, so we're not too narrow with the foot. Level the pelvis off, neutral pelvis, lower back. Before we stand, we're going to think about that foot. So think about where the weight is on the foot. I want you to just kind of shift the weight a little bit, so if you feel like you're on the outside of your foot, try and pull that big toe down into connection with the floor, but don't let the knee collapse. So then once you've brought that big toe down to the floor, try and then externally rotate the hip a little bit more to get the knee tracking the second and third toe again. And now try and keep that connection as we stand. So back foot curled under to stand. And keep that foot connection. So we want that medial arch active, and then we're slowly lowering down. So in your own time, just do that movement. Really slow it down so you can just focus what is happening in the foot. Think about the ankle as well. If the ankle starts to wobble, your foot might start to collapse a little bit. So we're trying to focus on keeping that neutral ankle position and just trying to correct any little micro movements that happen in the foot and the ankle. And we want the knee to track the second and third toe as we're going up and down, and we don't want the pelvis to shoot out to the side. Okay, so just do one more on this side. Ooh, get your balance. And then we're going to again rotate round to the opposite side. and then back. So imagine you've got your ball that you're picking up into the air and down to the other side. Do one more each side. And then make your way onto the opposite high kneel. And then we're going to be, again, making sure we're in the right position. So foot not too narrow, so bring it to the side. Pelvis level with the floor, neutral lower back. And then just think about that foot connection now. So ankle neutral, knee over tracking second and third toe. Bring that big toe down into the floor, shortening that arch of that medial side of the foot. Make sure the knee then is tracking the second and third toe after you've done that by externally rotating, and then you're going to stand. And you've got that full foot connection as you're standing, and lower it back down. Keep your pelvis level, keep it neutral, keep your pelvis facing forwards. Don't let yourself rotate, so we're not rushing. Just do a couple more on this side. Okay, put your hand down to the floor, and then we're going to bring that leg back into our high oblique sit, and then from high oblique sit, bring that foot forwards, fully connected at the foot and the hand, lift the bum into the air, and rotate round into the bear. And then round. So nice and slow, control the movement, shoulders and pelvis moving at the same time. Now back the other way. Make sure with every rotation you get that full hand connection, no clawed fingers. And try and get your spine into a nice position when you're in that bear. So nice and lengthened through the spine. Try not to have an anterior tilt in your pelvis. Just do a couple more. And then come down into your quadruped position. And fingers spread wide, middle finger pointed forwards. Find your neutral pelvis, neutral lower back. And then we're just going to start to hinge the hips backwards. So the hands, I want you to, as you're moving your body backwards, imagine you trying to like push down into the floor and pull backwards, but your hands actually don't move anywhere. So you're pushing the floor down and backwards, and you're hinging your hips back. Keep your spine nice and long, and then come forwards. Keep that neutral pelvis, neutral lower back. And then go over your wrists. So we're mobilising through the wrist, and then all the way back. So we're pushing the floor down and backwards as we move backwards with the hands, and then we're coming forwards and then go over your wrist. Try and just mobilise through and then come back. Just go back and forwards now in your own time, keeping control of your pelvis and lower back. Just do a couple more. Okay, so we're just going to do some bird dogs. So you are going to connect now with the left hand and the right knee. So you're going to push the left hand down into the floor, the right knee, and then extend left leg and flex the right shoulder. And then bring them back. And we want that full hand connection. Don't let your fingers start to claw. And then you're just going to alternate sides. So then you're going to switch to the right hand, left knee, and extend the leg, flex the shoulder. What you don't want to do is overextend. So you only want to go as far as you can go with that leg, that you're not going to lumbar extension. And try and keep your spine nice and straight and not moving from side to side. So if I do it from this side, my body doesn't move anywhere. This movement is coming from the shoulder and the hip. Get that full connection of the hand every time you switch from side to side. Okay, and then we're just going to do some crawling forwards and backwards, and then from side to side. So you're going to take one step forwards with the hand and the knee, and then opposite side. So 2 steps forwards, 2 steps backwards. Again, keeping that nice torso that isn't shifting from side to side. Controlling that movement, making sure we get that full hand connection with every single step. If you want to go further with the movement than 2 steps forwards, 2 steps back, go for it. I just haven't got enough space in here, so I'm not going to do that. And then start to go to the side. So you're going to take one leg to the side and one arm. It's quite difficult to do actually. So bring one leg to the side, one hand, that full connection. You have to do this opposites as well, I've just worked out. So if the left leg moves and the right hand moves, left hand moves, right leg. So we're going side to side, fab. Again, keeping a nice straight spine. And when you've done a few of those, you are going to find your neutral spine again. Make sure your spine's nice and long, shoulders are active, hands pushing the floor away, curl the feet under, create your breath and your brace, and we're just going to lift the knees up into our bear position, full hand connection, and then just start to straighten the legs, go onto your tiptoes if you need to, and mobilise through the wrist, and then bend the knee, so we're bending the knee and hinging the hip, and then forwards again, extend the wrist, so just go forwards and backwards, keeping that nice long spine, hinging the hip as we go backwards, extending the knees as we go forwards, and we're going over the wrist, so we're trying to just mobilise through the wrist. Keep the hands fully connected throughout this if you can. Just do a couple more of these, then go onto your knees and just have a little rest. Give your arms a shake off, give your legs a shake off. And then we're going to go up into bear again and do some crawling forwards and backwards. And then crawling from side to side. So find your neutral, create your breath and your brace, hands pushing the floor away, shoulders active, keep the neck nice and long, lift the knees, and we're just gonna crawl forwards, 2 and back 2. Try not to let the fingers lift off the floor. And try not to let your body wobble all over the place. Take a little break if you need it. Go a bit further if you want. Obviously you can do more than 2 steps if you feel like it, if you've got the space. And then have a little rest, little breather. And then we're just going to go side to side again. So find your neutral, create your breath and your brace. Hands fully connected, push the floor away with your hands, shoulders active, lift the knees, and then start to step one side, so 2 steps to one side, and then go back. Hands fully connected. Nice and steady, nice and slow. Have a little break if you need, and go again. Okay, and rest. And then we're just going to go into our, so from our quadruped into bear, into squat, and then we're just going to do some squats to stands, working on our foot connection, and then we're done. So neutral pelvis, neutral lower back, long through the spine, curl the feet under, lift the knees, hinge the hips, keep that full hand connection, walk your hands backwards into your squat, and now at the bottom of your squat, just think about that weight distribution. Think, are you feeling it on the right more or the left? So just try and get a bit more balanced. Big toes pushing down into the floor. Hold that position for a few seconds. And then slowly come up. And we're just gonna keep that big toe connection and just do some nice steady slow squats. Thinking about pelvis as well, and thinking about going straight down in the middle. So as you're going down, if you start to feel yourself shifting to one side, try and correct that movement so that you're going more down the middle. And again, keep nice and long through the upper back, but keeping your neutral pelvis, neutral lower back, so you don't just fall into that upper back rounding. At the end of each squat at the bottom, just pause there for a second or two, thinking about that nice foot activation. A lot of people tend to kind of collapse their feet when they go down to the bottom because of their ankle range of movement. So just try and hold that position and get that arch lifted, that medial arch. Just do another couple and then you're done. Okay, we're done. Hope you enjoyed that. I will see you all soon.